The weirdest client request you have ever had?
They said something and then they manipulated us to deliver something. So there was this line, I'll give you an analogy. They asked us to build an application in an analogous manner, was like build a transport vehicle to go from point A to point. And we built a bicycle. But by the time they finished the bicycle, they said, no, it has to have 3 wheels so that more than 2 people can sit on it. So it became a 3-wheeler.
Okay.
By the time build the 3-wheeler, they said, what, it has to have a covered body.
Okay.
And it has to be able to sustain and take care of the weather. So basically they said make it a car. By the time we made the car, they said, oh, by the way, it also needs to go on the road and has to fly.
So okay.
What began as a transport vehicle, which we thought was a 2-wheeler cycle, became an airplane by then.
So when we say the word sales, people imagine the numbers, figures, revenue, and they almost take it in a negative way also sometimes. So how do you define the sale? What is sales for you?
See, sales has historically had a negative connotation. And the reason why people have a negative connotation to sales is because people who buy from sellers always have this dirty and nagging feeling that they may get conned, they may get cheated, they may not get the best deal.
But sales almost comes with the psychology and the strategy.
So sales is it's a mind game in a sense. Sales has a science of selling and there's an art of selling. I would in fact say sales is understand the psychology of helping other person buy.
We see that many people are scared of sales. What suggestions you would give to overcome that situation?
Yeah, so sales is definitely not an easy life. They say if you want to be a successful salesperson in life, you have to have a very thick skin. Clients sometimes may seem like being adamant, arrogant, difficult to work with. Actually, they're not.
What are the important factors that we should keep in mind and we should practice?
A negotiation begins when somebody says a no.
So, we see that AI is coming into the picture. What aspects of sales can change because of the AI?
Wonderful question. It's a very pertinent question.
Okay. Have you seen somewhere companies are removing the sellers, firing the sellers people and replacing them with the chatbots?
The answer is
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back to the another exciting episode of Rakhi Sharma Podcasts. And today is the last episode of 2024. So far, this is the 5th one, and I hope you have enjoyed the earlier one also. If you haven't subscribed it yet, please do subscribe and help my channel to grow. And I'll try to provide the valuable content to all of you. So today we have a very wonderful guest with us who has dedicated more than half of his life into sales, training people, training leaders, coaching them, and many more things. So let's kick off this conversation, understanding more from him about this. This is Rakhi Sharma presenting you all the RS Podcasts. Let's begin. Hey everyone, welcome to the 5th episode of RS Podcasts. And today we have Mr. Suresh Iyer with us, who is the sales coach. Thank you so much, sir, for coming to the show, and it's amazing to have you here. Yeah, and we were planning for this podcast from last 2-3 months, I think, and finally we made it. So let's start with your journey. Can you introduce yourself to the wider audience?
sure. So my journey started well over 3.5 decades ago. I started my sales journey in 87 with HCL, Hindustan Computers Limited at that point in time. And well into this current century, 2008, 2010, I was in sales, working with many organizations, handling teams across the globe and so on. Later on, from 2010 onwards, till start of this year, I have been focused on delivering training programs, facilitation, mentoring, coaching to sellers across the globe. Predominantly, I've helped people in IBM, Kyndryl, and for the last 1 year, I've been an independent trainer. So that's been my journey over 37 years of work life, and absolutely passionate about making a difference to people. And I see a lot of joy when I interact with people, and that joy rubs off on me as well. So that's been my journey till now.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So today we are going to talk about the sales. So when we say the word sales, people imagine the numbers, figures, revenue, and they almost take it in a negative way also sometimes. How do you define the sale? What is sales for you?
See, sales has historically had a negative connotation. And the reason why people have a negative connotation to sales is because people who buy from sellers always have this dirty and nagging feeling that they may get conned, they may get cheated, they may not get the best deal. So sales has over a period of time, because of the way people bargain, the way people handle, whether it's corporate, whether it's individual, whether it's B2B or B2C, because of the nature of selling and the psychology that's involved in selling, where one person is buying, the other person is selling, and there is always money involved in sales. So people tend to feel that if they don't drive a hard bargain, they will lose out on the money that they are paying, as in they may pay more than they are supposed to pay. So when you say I'm a salesperson, people immediately go on guard and say, "Oh, am I going to get conned by this person?" So that perception about sales carries on, and therefore sales, in my view, uh, globally carries a kind of a negative connotation. It's not a bad word. It's just that when you say I'm a salesperson, people immediately kind of pull back and they put on a mask. They kind of get guarded. So that's the typical perception. My belief is that every human being is a salesperson. In fact, I will quote Daniel Pigg's book, "To Sell Is Human," and he talks about selling is something which is the second oldest profession in the world. I don't need to name the first oldest profession. So every human being sets. In the modern day and age, I prefer the word client engagement. I prefer the word consultant. I prefer the word advisor instead of salesperson, because a consultant is somebody who helps others buy. An advisor is somebody who advises on what you could buy. So those are positive connotating words rather than a salesperson. But sales is still, people use the word salesperson or salesman, saleswoman. It again depends industry. Sales has that connotation, but it's changing. People nowadays call themselves consultant, advisor, partner, client engagement person. These are the terms people use.
But sales almost comes with the psychology and the strategy. They should also sound convincing at the same time.
See, selling, if you look at it, we encounter salespeople every day in our life. Whether it's the lady or the person who's selling us grocery, or whether you go to a shop when you go on a weekend to buy some stuff for yourself, shopping mall and so on. So there are various kinds of sales situations. One of the situations is where you are buying a commodity or a product. It could be a phone that you're upgrading. It could be a new Bluetooth headset you're buying, or any such device, right? So there are product sales situations where the exchanges of a very simple, uncomplicated product, even if it is heavy on technology, the product is identified by its specifications and features. So what I would call as a typical commodity. It may be low value, it may be high value. That doesn't matter. But it is still something which is a product, which is identifiable, touchable, tangible. You can touch, feel it. There are competitors for the product in the market. So that is one kind of selling, or say sales situation. Then there are of course others which are more complex sales situations. So you're buying a car or a bike or a house, or you're investing in equity, which is also safe because you're buying a business when you invest in equity. So complex sales, it requires a lot more analytics and thinking. And when you're talking about buying a house or a car, the psychology of the people who are engaging also comes into the picture. So, what are my preferences? What do I like? What do I not like? Color, size, features, comfort, etc. So, sales has both the psychology of buying and selling, and there is a strategy aspect of the salesperson and the buyer. So each one has what you would call as their expectation, their requirements that need to be met in the process. So sales is it's a mind game in a sense. Psychology is involved. Complex sales involves more psychology, and product sales, simple sales. And there are, of course, those sales which are impulsive sales, where you first go to a shopping mall over a weekend and you like something, a dress that you want to buy. You don't think too much. You just like the dress, you buy it. So that's an impulse purchase. But normally, impulse purchase is for a consumer, for themselves, and it is something which you are okay to spend and not regret later. But high value complex sales like a car or a house, normally you would not do impulse purchase unless you are a Elon Musk or an Ambani who can just buy whatever they want.
Correct, correct.
So did I answer the question of yours?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And the next question is, we see that these people who can sell something, sell themselves, or it could be anything. So they have the unfair advantage every time we see that, because they are able to make it. They're able to tell the story behind it, and they can get that, achieve that thing. But people, we see that they are doing the hard work back end, but they are not able to present themselves. So sometimes this happens that they don't get the credit that they deserve. So do you think that people born with the talent, or people can have that, learn that skill over a time and develop?
That's a very interesting question. It's a question I encounter practically every time I am mentoring somebody. Whether sales is an inborn skill or is it a skill that can be acquired? My honest opinion is that sales is a skill that can be acquired. Sales is not necessarily an inborn skill. See, a skill is essentially, as the name says, is something you can acquire, right? Uh, Sales has a science of selling and there's an art of selling. Now, every human being has a particular nature of their own. Some people love to talk. Some people are quiet people. Some people have a very analytical mind. They can ask a lot of powerful questions. There are those who have a logical mind. So, there are salespeople of all kinds of flavor over there. Okay. But selling involves, especially in a corporate world, B2B selling, it involves understanding the psychology of selling. And I would in fact say sales is understand the psychology of helping other person buy. So if you can put yourself in other person's shoes and try understand what would make this a damn good deal for them, what would really make it irresistible for them to buy. If you can put yourself in that situation of the buyer and you articulate the value, the product, the services, the benefit, then it becomes very easy for the buyer to take a decision in favor of your products or services. So selling is not about what we call as the hardcore push-based selling. In complex sales, it's all about helping the other person come to a conclusion, come to a buying decision. In a commodity purchase, you may want to say that, okay, it's like buying groceries. You go to a grocer and you say, I want this, this, and this. And then finally, just to get your pound of flesh, you say, okay, can you give me, 10 rupees worth dhania, mirchi, and all that. So that is more like, give me something freebie to make me feel nice. But in corporate sales, it's all about helping the other person buy. And for that, you need to put yourself in their shoes, understand the psychology, understand what's in it for them, understand what are their buy pressures. So there's a lot of science involved in selling. It is not just about going and making a sale. And learning the science of selling, practicing it, thinking on what works for you based on your personality is what actually is all about getting a person to develop the sales skill.
Okay, understood. And you mentioned about articulating. So there where comes the storytelling. So any storytelling frameworks that you have, or you recommend people to go through that step by step, step by step.
See, storytelling, as we all know, like in movies that we see, there are movies which have wonderful story. There are movies that have a drama in it. There are thriller movies, there are action movies. Any movie that has got a certain kind of a plot, right? Any movie that has got suspense in it, any movie that has got, say, a hero in it, or a hero could be a situation or a product, or it need not be a person. Right? And then there are the villains. Villains can be a negative situation. And then there is an outcome. So a storytelling typically has a bunch of elements in it. So there is typically the plot, and then there is the characters involved in the plot. Who are the people? What is their role? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Who's the person who's suffering? And the hero comes in and helps them. So any story which has a kind of a structured plot, which has these elements, there has to be, they say that the less said the better. So you don't want to reveal too much in the beginning. You want to keep the climax to the end. So they say less is more in story. So you don't want to reveal the key items in the beginning. You want to build up to the climax in the end and then expose the climax. So a good storyteller is somebody who can hold the audience attention for the duration of the story, whether it is 2 minutes or whether it's 2.5 hours, right? There are, of course, movies we have all seen which don't have a structure. They don't have a plot. There is no proper storyline. It jumps around here and there. And we lose the plot completely. And we feel, hey, what kind of a movie is this? But there are some which you can watch for 3 hours and you won't know 3 hours went by because the plot is so gripping. So a good storyline, even in the corporate world, when somebody is making a complex sale, especially in services sales, unlike in products where you can touch and feel, like this microphone, you can touch and feel and say, okay, this is how it looks, this is how it functions. It's easy to buy. But when I say, hey, you know what, the food in that particular Thai restaurant is very good, you won't get a sense of what it is. So I would say the ambience is good, the seating is good, you can go there with the family, it is handicapped enabled and so on. So I help you visualize the experience by describing it. And then I say, you know what, the last time I went there, I had a challenge, and then the chief chef came along and asked me what kind of food you like and what's your preference. He then took away the dish and got me a new one, just made for my taste. So when I explain it that way to you, you literally transport yourself into my shoes there.
Yeah, I'm
and you,
literally imagining.
and you get the experience. So that's what storytelling does in a sales environment.
Understood.
So it has a very powerful role to play in helping others
Okay.
buy your ideas, buy the product or service, or get convinced about what you're trying to explain with them.
The other day, I was listening to one podcast about the storytelling. So, in that, they said that it's about the intention and then the obstacle and how you figure out the intention is like if your audience is able to clear within the 5 minutes of your story that what is your intention and what is coming in the way. So, then you're a good storyteller. Like, yes.
Yeah. So, like I said, you could have a 2.5 minute story, which we call elevator pitch in the corporate world. The entire concept of elevator pitch comes from the logic that if you are stuck in a lift, which is also called an elevator,
Okay.
with the CEO of the organization that whom you're trying to sell, and you have about 2.5 minutes by the time the lift goes up to the CEO's floor, you want to make a strong pitch to the CEO. So you have only the 2.5 minute windows. So you need to be able to have rehearse your story that you will tell your the client CEO in case you bump into them, and therefore it has to have all these elements built in, right? And typically one of the most important elements of a storytelling is also there has to be a call to action at the end. So there it's which could be a moral of the story. It has to make the other person who's listening want to do something with the story you've told. Right? Otherwise the story is of no use if you don't take away something from it.
Correct.
So the call to action is very powerful. So you want to make sure that you present a situation, you talk about what happened, what are the challenges the other person or other organization faced, how did you or your organization solve it, and therefore what is the call to action to the person who's listening. So good story can be a 2.5 minute story, it can be a 2.5 hour story, it can be a 2.5 year story. Depends.
Okay, got it. So we see that many people are scared of sales. Why? Because maybe they are afraid of rejections, sometimes vulnerability, and sometimes it look very forced or too pushy. Yeah. So what suggestions you would give to overcome that situation?
Yeah, so sales is definitely not an easy life. They say if you want to be a successful salesperson in life, you have to have a very thick skin. Now, what thick skin basically means is that this is a competitive world, right? There are lots of people who are trying to make a sale. There are lots of people who are trying to grab the same market that you are in. There are competitive products and services. There are competitors out there. So somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. Just like in any sport, they can be, the first person who wins, that the number one, number two, and number three. Nobody typically remembers the number two and number three. Forget the number four onwards. So even in sales, the people who are remembered are the ones who win. And as it happens in most things in life, you win occasionally, more often than not, you have setbacks. So a typical seller, and there are all kinds of statistics out there, a world-class seller will typically have a 70-80% conversion rate. So if they're involved in 10 deals, they'll close 7 to 8 of those deals. They are the world-class sellers.
Okay.
An average seller will close about 4 to 5 deals. A novice seller or somebody who's not really an expert in sales will typically close 1 or 2 deals out of 10. Which it also means that out of 10, they will lose 8 deals. So majority of the time they're losing, occasionally they're winning. So every time they lose, they feel disappointed, they may feel depressed, they may feel like this is not the world I want to be in. Especially when they lose big deals where they worked hard. See, the challenge in sales is that it's not about how good you are alone.
Okay.
Somebody else can be even better than you.
Always, yeah.
I mean, I was just watching the chess match that happened between our Indian chess player and the Chinese chess player.
Yeah, okay.
And the Chinese person made him blunder. Although he was known to be a very good chess player.
Exactly.
And we then found that we have a 17-year-old world chess champion, the youngest ever.
Yes.
So losses can happen. In sales, you may lose a deal. Even though you're very good, you can lose a deal because the other person is equally better or even better than you on that day. And that requires tough, thick skin to digest it and still get up and go and sell the next day. So sales is all about, not giving up. If you're a passionate person, you will definitely succeed in sales. And like I said, sales is not about selling, it's about helping the other person buy. So as long as your focus is to make the other person successful in their business, you can handle setbacks.
So I would like to know from your experience, what's the bizarre, most weird deals you have seen closed?
Oh, there have been quite a few. When you say bizarre, I'm hoping it is bizarre in a nice way.
Yeah.
I've also had bizarre in a not so nice way.
Okay.
I'll try and refer to both. So this happened very early in my life, where I was dealing with a large financial institution while I was in Bombay, and they are a world reputed organization, an organization that has got offices across the board. They were setting up an office in India, in Bombay, and I had the opportunity to meet with the head of their organization who had come to establish their business. Now he was like a CEO. It like a CEO. He was not a CEO, but like the CEO of an organization for the India business. So when I was talking to this person, I managed to hit a very good rapport. Now the rapport, as people say in sales, is not about something you hit upon by talking about the weather, golf, and this and that. Now, but often the rapport is the chemistry between the two people. Do you come across as genuine? Do you come across as authentic? Do you come across as somebody who's really interested in helping the client succeed? I believe that is where my intention always starts, sir. Because I always believe that if you can help somebody succeed through a process of helping them buy, they will come back to you again and again. So sales for me is a lifelong journey. It is not a transaction. That has been my belief all along. So in this person, when I interacted, I hit a good chemistry, a good rapport. And since they were new in India and they were setting up their office, this was early 90s, 93, 94. So I wasn't too sure whether they would have the ability to pay. And when somebody is setting up an office, although they're globally present, you don't want to take chances with I would say, multi lakh deals in those days, where you supply and then run around for buying. So I told the gentleman that I would like to be of service to them, provided they are willing to pay me 100% advance. Now I said it just because I thought, let me be safe. So like I say, when in sales you start high, right? You don't see pictures of high. Believe it or not, the person said, no problem. Come and try the check tomorrow. I said, is he serious? Is he really going to give me 100% check? That was a massive deal, by the way. And I couldn't believe it when I went the next day, collected the check, but I was still not sure. Because checks typically, sometimes they bounce. If those they give it have legal issues, legal clauses to overcome check bounce. So I collected the check. I sent it to my office in Bangalore that time. I was in Bombay. And the check was honored. And then I was sure that, wow. So you can even get 100% advance deal from a financial institution, which is sizable in amount. And I was a very good advisor to that gentleman for a long time after that. And so that was the most bizarre situations where you ask for something unexpected and they say, sure, done. Maybe this person had done the research on our organization and we had a very good reputation at the time. I used to work with a company called Michael Lang. It's a Pradeep Kast company. Yeah. Michael was known as the IT networking services company in India, bringing in the biggest of the brands in India. So they also had done the research and they found that this is a great company to work with. So they trusted the organization. The person trusted me, I guess, from the interaction we had. I got away with 100% advance, which was like mind-blowing. I didn't imagine I would get it, but I got it.
Okay.
Of course, there are other situations that happened which are not so great. I was dealing with one company in Hong Kong, and it so happened that they were trying to take advantage of us. This was a different organization, different time, around 23 years ago, 22 years ago, early part of the century. And sometimes some organizations think they can manipulate suppliers. They can take advantage of them. They can try and squeeze more out of it without paying in. So this organization was trying to do that to us. At my heart, and while I'm a person who wants to do good for my clients, I do not feel so happy with client take you for a ride. As self this client was trying to do that, I and one of my colleagues, we went to their office in Akkam. We had a discussion with their C-level people. The discussion, we had thought of the plan to go and collect whatever were due to us. So that was a fairly interesting discussion. I wouldn't want to get public domain to reveal everything, but let me suffice to say that that was the first time I actually challenged a whole room full of CXOs, where you said that you owe us money and you better pay us. So we took a tough stand. We explained to them what the implications of them not pay would be. Finally, they paid. And it was very unexpected for my management in India to believe that we could salvage that money from the client, because they thought Suresh is just wasting time going flying into Hong Kong, spending time there, talking to the client. You even lose the client. And so happened that I and my colleague, we went there, we had this discussion, we explained to them where the issue was, where they were taking us for a ride, and we need to be fair in business. Finally, they saw value in what I was saying, and they saw value in what we were doing also.
Okay.
So they paid us the dues. I came back completely, not expecting that we select the money, and my CEO said, "Wow, this is fantastic." So that was a very bizarre situation, but that happens in life. All kind of things happen.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you said in the first story, within first deal, you were able to make that. So how people can take someone in confidence in a very less time? So that is also skill, I think. So how?
It certainly is. So developing the rapport, building the confidence, creating the chemistry. Various words are used in the business line when it comes to two people. Really connecting professionally to do business. Now, very often, depending on the situation that one is, if it is a services sales, it's a complex sale, it's a new area of selling where the client does not have too much knowledge. Uh, so there were various situations. So how do you build a chemistry or how you build a rapport is all about how much do you want the other person to win.
Okay.
So are you going with an intention of making the other person win succeed, or are you going with the intention of getting your win and running away? People don't realize this often. Your intentions, what you feel deep inside you as a human being in a transaction, very clearly come out. Most people can read each other long enough if you spend time with somebody 5-10 minutes. Especially professionals who are in corporate world, they can literally smell a person whether they're genuine or not in 5 minutes, simply by the words they use or the way they come across. So building rapport or developing that chemistry or developing that confidence is all about how strongly or how deeply do you believe in helping the other person build. If you really believe in that and you go prepared with that mindset, prepared in terms of how you're going to help them win, that will show through in your interaction with them in the first few minutes. It may be in the form of ideas you go and give them, it may be in the form of kind of questions you ask them, it may be the form of preparation you have done to show them that you come prepared to help them. Very often people go and make a pitch of their own company's products and services. The other person just falls asleep or gets switch off or get tune off. Simply because they're not interested in listening about you, how great your company is, unless they ask for it. So more often than not, when you go meet a client in a business environment, it should be about understanding either their needs, if that is okay. But very senior people also are not interested in sharing their needs all the time. There are a lot of people who come and ask their needs. So if you're meeting a very senior person, you want to go and tell them how you believe you can make a difference to them. You as in you, individually, and your organization can make a difference. And when you start with that kind of an approach, immediately the warmth in the discussion comes through and people connect.
Okay. So can you share any example the other way you were shared?
Not so then. In fact, this happened sometime earlier this year when once I became independent and I started talking to corporates. So there are multiple corporates I've been directly working with. Of course, I work with partners as well in delivering sales training programs, facilitation programs. So there was this corporate in Bangalore who I was talking to, and they were looking at getting their client-facing people trained. And I was talking to a very senior person there, right? And so where I was called to meet them at their office, not too far from where you're sitting here in Bangalore, I did research on their organization. What are they into? What kind of challenges they face? Which kind of clients they deal with? Where are their presence globally? How big are they? Looked up some of the people on LinkedIn to understand what are they saying. So I went as prepared as I could in terms of understanding the clients. So when I went there, I also looked at who their competitors are in the market. So having done my research, when I met the senior person at the organization site, I proposed a couple of ideas that I thought may be there, some of the challenges they face, and that immediately and how I could help them. So not only did I go with a point of view on what I thought could be some of the challenges they're facing, but I also went in with some kind of solutions I can offer them to train their people and help them overcome that. When you go with that kind of an intention, with that kind of initial conversation, the other person immediately says, okay, so this person is not wasting my time. He or she is here to help me do better in my business. And that positivity immediately rubs on. And when it rubs on, then people tend to interact and talk with you far more freely. They talk with you with a lot more confidence, a lot more trust. So we talk about elements like trust, confidence, chemistry. All of these are elements of how quickly and easily are you able to communicate that you are not here to do a quick sale and run away, but you are here to try and be an advisor to them, to help them meet their goals. And you can even be a partner to them in the longer journey. Whether they wish to partner with you on the long journey or not is a different thing. But if you can show that willingness and that desire, then people tend to trust you a lot more. That's my view. So those are some of the examples where has worked for.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier when we were having conversation that assumption is the evil. We should never make any assumptions in the business. We should start with their requirement.
Correct.
Yeah. So what I understood, like we should first ask for the requirement, no assumptions, and then give the
Which is
what.
very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So a lot of people see, they may assume that a client needs a certain service or a product, or they may have a challenge. It is okay to do your research. It is also okay to assume as part of your preparation, but do not assume for granted that is a challenge the client faces. So you may want to go and talk to a client and validate your assumptions. So your assumptions should be with you till they are with you. But once you're in front of the client, you want to validate your assumptions, confirm your assumptions, correct your assumption based on the inputs you get from the client, and then get a sense of the reality. So assumptions are okay when they are just with you. But when you're talking to the client, you want to make sure that you are validating assumptions and clarifying it. That is one way of approaching a client, which is you go with a certain set of assumptions, validate, confirm, and then based on that, you take course of action. The other situation that can happen in I see that happening more and more in the current environment, in the current economic situation, is where clients are looking for partners who come in with a totally fresh idea. So what I've also seen nowadays is that given the highly rapid change in technology and basically products and services all around the world, things are changing so fast that is becoming very difficult for both the provider and the customer to keep pace with their knowledge of what's evolving. So very often when a client engagement person or an advisor or consultant goes to a customer to talk, customers are not really very happy when you go and ask them questions as to what their needs are. Because a lot of partners and sellers will come and ask themselves, what's your need? What keeps you awake at night? What are some of your challenges? I mean, they get bored and tired of asking the same question to multiple people.
Okay.
They feel, why am I sitting here and answering questions of this person when they should be coming and telling me things that I don't know? So this actually comes out from the philosophy that customers don't have the ability to understand what's happening in the market, what their competitors are doing, or what's happening to similar organizations in the same industry across the world. And large organizations that actually engage with clients across the globe have that experience to understand what are different situations similar kind of clients face in the same industry. So when you go to a client, more and more clients nowadays are expecting that you go to them as a subject matter expert and share with them, teach them, tell them things that they are not aware of. Now, all this has to be done very tactfully, which is where the science and art of sales comes in. You have to do it as an advisor and not somebody who comes arrogantly and assertively and aggressively tells them what they should do. So you have to balance the science of asking and telling, the asking of advising and validating. So clients are expecting people who come to talk to them, whether they are sellers or consultants or advisors or client engagement people, to come in with fresh perspective, to come in and tell them things that they have not heard, to come in and tell them things where they are going to run into challenges if they don't take action today, which is what an advisor does. So the role of the salesperson is dramatically changing. In fact, I would like to quote a book which is one of my favorites. The book is called The Challenger Sale. So this book has been created by the Corporate Executive Board Sales Executive Council, and it's a very popular book for people who are looking to sharpen their skills in sales. So there are a couple of concepts that this book talks about. First concept is a concept called hunter farmer.
Okay.
Now hunters are basically, it's a name given to people who do sales in a certain manner. Hunters are typically people who go and get new logos, or they go and crack open a new account, and once the account is onboarded or once the account has been acquired, then it's a part of, then you have to mine the account or you have to continue the relationship. So the first time you get the first deal, After that, repeat business, upselling, cross-selling, more business. That is called farming.
Okay.
Right? Hunters are people who go and get the first kill or the first deed. Right? So there are hunters and there are farmers. Both require very different skills. Hunting requires the persuasive and perseverance to go and close the sale. Farming is all about building this relationship, delivering value, delivering service, delighting the customer, and then getting repeat business. So the mindset of the person engaging is slightly different, and therefore organization very clearly structure their teams as hunters and farmers. That's one kind of approach. There's no one approach in sales. There are different approaches. This is one approach.
Okay.
The other concept that you come across in the book, The Challenger Sale, is that they have done a lot of research, especially after the 2001 World Trade Center bombing, the 2008 economic recession, the 2019 COVID, and so on and so forth. The world has seen ups and downs, upheavals in the economic situation. And every time there has been a economic downturn or a recession, corporations globally clamp down on their way of buying. They, in fact, make it more difficult for a person to sell to them, simply because the customers become risk averse. So they want to reduce their risk yet get the maximum value. So the Challenger Sale book it talks about research that was done across many thousand sellers across the globe, across industries, where they figured out that despite the economic downturn in 2008, which is the subprime issue that happened, the world went through a very difficult time. How is it that some people who were in the sales profession were doing exceptionally well? So they did a lot of research. I believe they looked at 44 attributes of world-class sellers who were doing exceptional sales despite the economic downturn. Okay, while the majority of the salespeople were struggling. So just to quote some statistics, apparently 2% of the global salespeople fall in that world-class seller category. And the rest 98% fall either in the average or they call the core performers or the post-sales. Now, the Challenger Sim book talks about 5 profiles of sellers based on the 44 attributes. The 5 profiles are the relationship seller, the hard worker, the problem solver, the lone wolf, and the challenger sale. Right? Now, many people believe that the relationship seller is the one that is most likely to close sale and do great in sales. Because in build strong relationships, you get good sales. The research proves totally contrary to what this belief is.
Okay.
In fact, the research very clearly came out based on the attributes. They said who are the people who fall into the relationship seller category, who are the people who fall into the other 4, which is the problem solver, the lone wolf, the hard worker, and the challenger seller. They found that the challenger seller, which is the one who challenges the customer's thought process, goes and teaches the customer something new, who goes and does not go and ask the question, what keeps you awake at night, what are the problems I can solve for you, but actually tells the customer what problem they should be aware of. Those are the people who were the topmost sellers in the world, the best of the best.
Okay.
So there's a lot of science that is involved in selling. It is not just about going and telling a customer or asking a customer. And it's a very fine art. So if somebody wants to become a salesperson, wants to get into the sales profession, they have to not only learn the science, but they have to practice it day in and day out and adapt it to themselves. Because people have different styles. There are some who love to talk, like, I love to talk. There are some who love to listen. Listening is a skill which precedes the art of question. You can't listen unless you ask powerful questions, unless you ask impactful questions. So there are people who are on the listening side, who listen more than they speak. There are people who are on the speaking side, who speak more than they listen. They love to talk. And then there are those who are the quiet types who do neither, who are analyzing and logically analyzing what's going on. So sellers are of all kinds of types over there.
Okay.
People who talk also make great sellers if they talk value. People who listen and ask powerful questions also make great salespeople because they are able to ask those powerful questions to make the customer come to the conclusion. In fact, great coaches who coach senior executives and CEOs have this fantastic ability to ask powerful questions. So a great coach is somebody who can ask great questions.
Okay.
So once you start understanding all of these concepts, it becomes evident that there are sellers of all kinds over there. All kinds of people can make seller. So there is no one type. Anybody can become a seller.
Okay. So when I'm listening to this, so I'm imagining from my 8 years of experience that I've seen these people. Yeah, he was doing like this. He was doing like this. And if someone wants to be like best seller, like if he starts his journey now, if he decides that I want to be the best, what are the checklist points you would suggest them to go on, like just at least have this, practice this, then over a time you'll be able to do it.
See, there are some key elements of becoming an impactful seller, powerful seller. I would even, like I said earlier, I would change the word seller to becoming a
Client thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm asking from the perspective of like IT, yeah.
somebody who can engage the other person impactfully, powerfully. What are some of those skills? So there are some very fundamental skills that one needs to know. One of the most fundamental skills, like I said, is the ability to ask questions. Now, you can ask questions only when you have prepared about the person, their organization, the audience, the situation. You've done your research. You've done your research about the company, the industry, their production services, their competitors, your whole production services, how they fit in. So, anybody who needs to be an effective client engagement person first needs to believe that preparation is the key to any successful sale. In fact, I'll quote one of my mentors who's right now mentoring me and who helps me deliver programs. Oh yeah, everybody can have a mentor.
Oh, I
Sure. See, he's a wonderful person. His name is Venkataraman Subramanian. And he has some fantastic one-liners, and I keep borrowing and plagiarizing his one-liners. So the most recent one I heard from was sales is the systematic elimination of obstacles or challenges. So you systematically eliminate the obstacles, you come closer to the same. So that's some of the quotes that he used, and I said, "Wow, that's a very powerful way of looking at it."
yeah.
So a seller not only needs to prepare, but also has to learn to overcome objections or obstacles or hurdles that the client may present on the way, saying, "Hey, I don't have a budget. How do you overcome that situation? Hey, I don't have the ability to decide. How do you overcome that situation?" So sales is all about preparing, executing, reflecting, and persevering. So you do all of these, not just one sequentially, but you do it regularly and constantly, and you get better and better. See, it's a lot like muscle memory. If you look at any sport, whether you look at golf or cricket or any sport, first you learn the skills of playing that sport. So you put an academy and they teach you how to take stands and how to hold the bat and where to watch and all that. You do that for, like they say in the like Malcolm Gladwell in the book, The Blink says, 10,000 hours of practice. It's just a reference. But when somebody does that for hours and hours and hours, it becomes second nature. So when you start by absorbing the concepts of selling, what involves selling. There is negotiation, there is objection handling, there is preparation, there is opening, there is engaging, there is closing, there is summarizing, there is specific, there is asking. You do all of this and you do it again and again, and then you reflect on what works for you, your personality. It becomes muscle memory. So as you keep doing that, you won't even think, oh, here I have no objection handling. Oh, here I have to ask questions. Oh, here I have to listen. It just becomes part of your way of engaging. So when you ask me what are the 5 things a person who wants to be in client engagement do, learn the science of selling. There's some wonderful books out there.
Okay.
One of the books is called Spin Selling by Neil Rackham. That's the one of the foundation books. Daniel Pink's The Sell is Human. Then there are books by, of course, The Challenger Sale. And there are many other books. Consultative Selling by Mac Hannon, if I'm not wrong. So books offer you a lot of wisdom of people who have been there and done that. So start with the books, understand the science of selling, start practicing it. Most important, reflect on what works for you and adapt what works for you and change. Right? So you may have unlearned some habits, you have to learn some habits. And once you start doing that, you can become a effective seller. See, all of us are selling all the time. Even when I'm talking to you, I'm selling you my ideas. When we go for a job interview, we're selling our capability. So all of us sell all the time. It's just that we don't realize it. So nobody needs to really learn selling, but becoming aware of the science of selling or the nuances of selling makes them even better at being able to convince others or getting their ideas bought. You can get better at it.
Correct.
All of us are born sellers by it.
Interesting insights. So, what's the most unexpected life lessons you have learned from your clients?
Yeah, so one of the things I would definitely want to highlight in response to that question is that clients sometimes may seem like being adamant, arrogant, difficult to work with. Actually, they're not. No client is, and I wouldn't say no client. Sometimes you can rub off clients in the wrong way. And when you do that, then they become different people. They become difficult to work with. But normally, people do not start from a position of being wanting to be difficult. So the life lessons I've learned from interacting with some of the clients is that every client is out there to succeed. Every senior person out there in an organization um, has certain things that they want to achieve. When I say things they want to achieve, I use the jargons that we use in sales. So if you're talking to a senior decision maker, they have something called KPIs, their key performance indicators.
Correct.
It is also known as goals. It is also known as personal business commitments, PBCs. It can be known as objectives. So these are all words that define how does a person uh, get appraise or performance reviews done for the person in an organization. So everybody is working towards a bunch of goals that they have to deliver. And the goals will have some metrics. So when a client comes across as difficult, it's not because they just enjoy being difficult to you. They come across as difficult because you've not understood what's in it for them. What are they trying to achieve? And when they don't understand that, it frustrates them. When it frustrates them, they seem like they're being difficult to you. So one of our life lessons is always, I'll quote Stephen Covey here, the 7 habits of highly effective people. There's an 8th habit also of that. Seek to understand first, then to be understood. So when you engage with senior clients, try and understand what's motivating them, what are their drivers, what will success look like for them, how can you help them succeed. So this goes back to what I said earlier. Put yourself in their shoes, think about their success and how you can make them succeed. Things will automatically start falling in place. So one of the life mantras I talk to people when I train them is that always think about the client first. Client comes first, then you come.
Correct.
So prepare for the client's organization. So do everything which will make them successful, and that will reflect in the way you engage with them.
I understand.
So that's one of the life lessons I learned from engaging with clients, that it's not about how smart you are, how intelligent you are, how great a product you have. What is the brand of your organization? All that fades into insignificance. What really matters is how can you help them succeed. So I was quoting this book, Challenger Sale. It talks about some of the characteristics of how do you build customer loyalty. Customer loyalty is all about where a customer will be happy to buy from you again, again, and again. So whether it is a new customer or whether it is an existing customer. So this book talks about 4 parameters or 4 factors that come in the way of, or not come in the way, but impact loyalty, customer loyalty. One of the first elements is your organization's brand and the reputation for example. So whether you're an independent or you're part of an organization, how well are you known? So people think that if I have a great brand name as an organization, if I work for a large MNC which is globally known, sale will be easier. Sure, you'll get the foot in the door, but that's only one part of the element. And this factor had a weightage of 19% as per the book Challenger Sale when they researched all these multiple thousand people. They also spoke to customers and asked them, how do you make a purchase, on what basis? What are some of the factors you look at in your purchase? So organizations, brands, products and services, organization brand is about 90%. The next thing is how good are your products and services, which also carried a weightage of 90% as a factor in decision making.
Okay.
The third one is a very interesting one, which talks about what is the impact of price to value, how price sensitive you are or how price effective you are. Are you lower price or higher price? It carries only 9% weightage, which means it is not necessarily always had to be the cheapest. And we all know costly things also get bought in the world.
Correct.
So this adds up to 47%, which means what is the remaining 53%?
Correct.
It's a very interesting aspect. This 53% is the person who's selling their reputation, their brand. It's called the U factor, YOU.
Okay.
So the largest chunk of a customer's buying process or decision-making process is impacted by how well you come across in helping them succeed.
Oh.
So this is the life lesson where it's not about do you belong to an organization which has got a global brand account. You may get a foot in the door if you have. But if you belong to a global organization but you do a lousy job of coming across as being helpful to the client, then you will lose the deal. If you belong to a small organization which is not a global brand, but you come across very powerfully as somebody who wants to help the client succeed, you win the deal. So if I were to summarize it, if you have both your personal brand and your organizational brand, both are powerful, then you add the 19% and the 53%, which comes to 72%. So 72% is actually riding on the shoulders of the person who's going there, carrying their own brand and their organization's own.
So this can be helpful to someone who is just starting the business. Yeah, they can be confident enough
They have to be.
They have
So they personally can make a lot of difference in how success comes their way. They don't have to worry about how big my brand is, or they don't have to spend millions of dollars in branding. It's all about how do you come across as to clients. So see, sales is also about whether you're selling to a consumer, B2C, consumer to consumer, or business to consumer, or business to business. So when it is business to business, then many of these things that I've discussed apply. When it goes from business to consumer, the sales can be a little different, because typically when it is business to consumer, it's commodities and stuff like that. So each of these has their own nuances. Right? All the concepts are talked about may not necessarily apply in commodity sales. So if you're going out there in the market to buy a ream of paper or a bunch of gel pens, you won't get into all these complex concepts. You just go, you'll be clear in your mind, I want to buy a gel pen packet. You'll go buy a packet of 10 gel pens, it will cost you some 50 rupees. You'll come home. Whether you buy a brand A or brand B or brand C, doesn't matter. As long as a good gel pen. If it doesn't work next time, we'll go change the brand. But when it comes to buying a house or a car or maybe a fancy laptop, you think 10 times, because one, it's a high value. Two, the brand of the product service matters. Three, you want to make sure that gives you trouble-free service. Four, you want to make sure you buy it from a reliable, genuine, authentic reseller or authorized seller, so that you are assured of the quality and you're not getting cheated by some e-commerce site selling you fake stuff. So complex sales, large value sales, the psyche of buying is different. Commodity sales, the psyche of buying is different.
understood. Okay. So, what are the important things when it comes in the communication, negotiation with the client? So, what are the important factors that we should keep in mind and we should practice?
In fact, I'm surprised you asked both the communication and negotiation in the same sentence. Both have, I would say, one could look at each of these as a huge topic in itself. Negotiation in B2B sales or complex sales is a totally different science. In fact, there's a lot of science on negotiation that goes in. In fact, as we speak, I am actively listening to and learning from a book called Never Split the Difference.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a book by a gentleman called Chris. I forget his second name. And it's a fantastic book. I mean, anybody who wants to learn how to handle difficult situations in life, and this is not about sales-related negotiations at all. This is all about human psychology. And just like everybody is a salesperson, everybody negotiates.
Correct.
We just don't know we negotiate. So this Never Split the Difference is a fantastic book which talks about the psychology of how do you handle difficult situations? How do you handle somebody who says a no? In fact, one of the one-liners that I immediately latched onto this book is, a negotiation begins when somebody says a no.
Okay.
No is the beginning of a negotiation.
Okay.
I was like, wow, that's powerful. And do not accept a yes as a confirmation of the closure of the deal. In fact, he talks about three kinds of yeses there in the book. There are three kinds of yeses. One is a confirmation yes, which is an acceptance. One is a yes where you are essentially saying a yes for the sake of getting the other person off your back, right? And the third yes is a yes which is, I think I lost that third one. Anyway, so there are three kinds of yeses out there. So he says, don't think that when you get a yes, you have won the deal, because a yes can have different connotations. A yes can also be an acknowledgement, by the way. An acknowledgement neither means I agree or disagree, but like,
Neutral.
yeah, yes, but that's, so it's neutral kind of thing. So there is a whole science of negotiation that goes in. In fact, this gentleman who's written a book, he is an expert hostage negotiator. And he talks about how hostage negotiation is all about the psychology of discussing and how do you deal with people who are apparently so difficult to deal with, the hostages, the terrorists. And he says how can be learned from that science and applied in a daily life. So negotiation is a complete subject by itself. There are lots and lots of concepts and techniques there. It's a constantly evolving science. The earliest book I remember, which I've seen in my earlier organization, is, and the concept was negotiating to yes. How to get the other person to say a yes, which is what typically most of the call center people try and hard sell you to say a yes multiple times, and then they think they've closed the deal. Very often in that kind of a sale, you feel like you've been cheated or even cornered without you realizing. So negotiate with yes, while it is a powerful concept that came in, people have learned from it, and now people are very wary about not getting caught in that. So negotiation has lots of concepts like tactics and techniques and positions and interests. There are tradables. There are terms like ZOPA, which is zone of potential agreement. There is something called BATNA, which is the best alternative to a negotiate agreement. So what if you don't reach an agreement? What is the best alternative? So there are tons and tons of concepts.
Okay.
Knowing these concepts helps you navigate what they call the landscape of negotiation. Okay, so that's a complete subject by itself,
Okay.
which is a subset of sales, but a complete subject by itself. Communication. The first question you asked me about communications and sales is we touched upon some of that when we spoke about the art of listening, the art of questioning, the art of preparing, communicating with the intent of helping other person succeed. So there are communicators who are assertive, there are communicators who are passive.
Okay.
Salespeople who are assertive communicators. When I say assertive, there is one needs to be confident of what one is saying. So I have my own concept which I call the circle of virtue, which is built upon a model where I talk about, start with something called patience and listening. What that does is it then helps you capture or gather data. You put the data in a structured format that comes out as information. So data, visualize yourself as looking at an Excel sheet, right? That's data for you. When you try and do pivots, when you try and do filters, when you try and do trends, you get some information out of it. When that information is applied to the context of the customer you're talking to, that is knowledge. Then you kind of know what you can go and top over. When you have developed enough knowledge in preparation of client meeting, you develop confidence. Confidence helps you develop conviction. Conviction helps you develop credibility with respect to the client. That helps you develop leverage. And then leverage helps you deliver value. And you deliver value to a client that helps you get profits. It's got a circle of virtue that I have kind of conceptualized in my mind. So communicate is all about, have you done your homework? Have you done your research? Do you know what you're trying to solve as a client's problem? How can you help them solve the problem? Why are you better than your other competitors in helping you solve the problem? So communication encompasses on these aspects, which is knowing your stuff, knowing your client stuff, knowing your competition, and then being able to go and present this in a manner which makes sense to a client in a succinct manner where the client is able to quickly decide, oh, this is the kind of partner I want to work with. So communication has brevity, communication has to have focus, communication has to have preparation, it has to have an intent, and there has to be a call to action in the end. The client should feel, hey, if I don't act now, I'm going to lose the money or I'm going to have significant losses. So there's a concept called cost of inaction that comes in sales. So if you're able to articulate to a client that if they don't take a decision now, they stand to lose more than the money they spend if they buy your services, they would rather buy your services because that's cheaper. If they don't act, they'll lose a lot more. So that's cost of inaction. There's lots of such concepts like come in sales, which are like, how do I say it? They're like buttons that you can press.
Okay.
They are like things you can focus the client's mind on. And when the client realizes, hey, so this person is making sense when they talk about cost of inaction being a lot more than the cost of buying the solution. And the key thing here is not about you saying it. The important thing is for you to say it, but get the customer to acknowledge or agree that what you're saying is what they're also seeing or what you also believe in.
Backed by data.
Yeah. So backed by data and validated by the client. So you need to get the client's acknowledgement that whatever you're saying, they agree with, and not only do they agree with, they feel the pain if they don't do it. That's when they start acting.
Okay.
So, so then there are these concepts and concepts and concepts of sales which once you dive into it, it's like an ocean. But once you know it, it all becomes second nature.
So you mentioned about two, like assertive and the passive.
Correct.
What is the passive one?
Passive are people who are not seen as pushy. These are people who either lack confidence or these are people who may believe that a client will take a decision in their due course. The client knows better than me.
Okay.
There are people who believe that I'm here to educate the client or offer information. The client will take a decision in there at the right time. Think of it as a doctor. See, there are doctors out there. Doctors are meant to help people become better and heal them. There are some doctors to whom when you go and talk to, whether it's you or your relatives or friends or whatever, when you go talk to them, they will tell you, if you don't do this now, this is the impact that you will see later on. If you don't change your lifestyle or if you don't change the way you're living today, if you don't start exercising, these are some of the impacts we start seeing the next 5 years. Now, this is an assertive doctor who's telling you, who's warning you, of what pitfalls you'll have if you don't take action.
Call of an action.
Call to action.
Yeah.
There are other doctors who will say, hey, you know what? This is what I recommend. So they will tell you without, because they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to scare you. So people come with different mindsets. There are people who don't want to hurt your feelings or scare you or come across as somebody who's the person who brings the bad news. So they want to stay nice and polite. So they'll just tell you things and say, hey, you know what? This is what I recommend. It's up to you.
Okay.
So passive is somebody who's not saying strongly enough what's good for you, saying it, but saying it in a very, very disconnected manner. Third is somebody who says it with passion, saying, why can't you do this? This is important for your health. You have family behind you. They're depending on you. You are the breadwinner. How can you be so careless? But that is an assertive person. An aggressive person will take a totally different stand where they will get upset and demand that you take action and so. But that's a different, you don't come across that too often. That typically the own family members would do it, most probably, or your friends will do it. But assertive, passive, and sales are people who depends on the intensity of their passion to help the customer succeed. Somebody who's very intense will be assertive. Somebody who's less intense or doesn't care will be passive.
Okay.
They could benefit by changing in sales. They reach out and ask, would you be okay if I can take half an hour of your time once in a while? Will you mentor us? And I feel privileged that they ask. I feel it's an honor for me to be able to help them, mentor them. So, and I feel good doing it. So I say yes. And so mentoring gives you a lot of satisfaction. And because for me, what I have learned, I never got trained in sales in my first 25 years of study. Nobody trained me. The only training we got was what products and services we are carrying. Nobody taught me the science of selling. So I learned the science of selling watching my seniors and my successful people sell. But a point came in my life when I actually learned the science of selling. This was an IBM. And I was like, wow, if I had known these sciences and concepts of sales 25 years ago, I'd have been a very different seller. I would have been a more effective and capable seller. So every sport for that matter has science, whether it's swimming, whether it's jogging, whether it's cricket, whether it's golf, whether it's badminton or chess, any sport. You have to know the science of selling, science of that sport or the field, and then you have to make it your own in terms of how well do you adapt it, which is the art. So in sales also, there's a lot of science and there's a lot of art. So it's a lot like, you may know all the shots in the cricket, but which shot do you play when? Decide whether you get a 4 or a 6 or get caught.
Correct.
So that is the art part of it, which is called temperament. How do you deal with difficult situations? So in selling also, there are people who reach out and ask for mentoring, and there are some who will say, I know sales, but I need a sounding board. So that's why they are looking for a coach, where they don't want you to tell them what to do, but they want to bounce ideas off you and they want you to ask them tough questions. So coaching is all about asking. There are various models of coaching, by the way.
Okay.
There was a LinkedIn article I was watching this morning about coaching. There are four models I've ever seen. One of the most popular models, of course, coaching is John Whitmore's GROW model. Goals, realities, options, and depth. And he used that to coach people. There are other models also that are there.
Okay.
So mentees reach out and ask for advice. Either I guide them with the concepts I know, or I point them to the books that will help them. As I say, teach a person how to fish, give them a fish and they feed them for a day, teach them how to fish and they take care of this for a lifetime. So you want to mentor them and coach them both, depending on where they are in their journey.
Okay. Sometimes when someone is selling anything or we are selling something to someone, it feels a bit manipulative. So how at the same time we can convince our thing and not being manipulative, but we want to convince it strongly.
See, this manipulative aspect is what they started this podcast about, the negative connotation of sales.
Yes.
So the manipulative aspect kind of comes to the fore, or comes as an invisible presence between two people when the intentions are not aligned. If my intention is to make a sale and make the most money and run away, meet my quota, get my job done, without necessarily taking care of whether your job is getting done or not, that can feel like manipulating. Now, a lot of sellers use this, what they think is a very smart technique, which I feel is not a very smart technique, where they tell a client that we are approaching the end of the quarter. I have committed this deal in my organization books for really, really help to, close the deal or close the order or sign the order and give it to me. Now that is manipulative because you are trying to get the deal done because you have committed. You're not worried whether signing the deal is going to put the customer and their reputation in a spot. So when sellers use some of these techniques, I'm not saying it's completely wrong. When used inappropriately, this looks manipulative.
Okay.
Now, a smart seller, what they would do is they would say, how is it helpful to you if you're going to wait another 3 weeks, which is when this quarter will end? How will that help you? If you take this decision next quarter, do you stand to gain or do you stand to lose? This goes back to the cost of inaction versus cost of gain of action. If you act now, you're going to spend, let's say, $10,000. Let's just take up a number. But if you don't act now, every month you will lose $20,000. So if you delay your decision by a month, you're going to be negative $20,000. If you take a decision today, you're going to be spending $10,000.
Smart.
So which way would you like to go?
Smart.
I may be wanting to close my deal for this quarter, but I don't use those words. A person who comes across as manipulative is focused on their quarter closures, but a person who's focused on the client's business, though they want to make their numbers, will focus on what the client will feel as pain or gain by talking that language. So the manipulator is intent. Where are you coming from? And how are you articulating your thoughts?
Very important.
No wise sellers will often not realize that their words are causing negative images in front of the client, wrong impressions for the client. The smart ones will say, for me, it doesn't matter whether you decide today or tomorrow. But remember, if you decide next month, you stand to lose more. You might as well decide now. And that helps them as well. So they put the customer in a situation where they come to the conclusion themselves rather than putting a pressure on them.
Okay, smart. Very wonderful. Okay. So have you come across, like, you train a lot of leaders, salespeople. So have you came across the people who were not good at selling, were terrible at selling, but later on you have seen the very good results?
Yeah, so I will just rephrase that statement a little bit. See, the way you asked me is that somebody was not being great in sales, which assumes that they have been in sales. I don't know if that was the intention. Maybe the intention was, so you can tell me what the intention was. Maybe the intention was that somebody who did not believe they'll succeed in sales, and then they became great in sales.
Yeah, they want to, but they were like not confident enough. Yeah.
So if somebody is terrible at sales for whatever reason, they also have lots of chances of becoming successful if they are diligent in following the science of selling and practicing it and becoming honest to their profession of selling. See, it's all about how honest are you to your profession. If you do it as a pastime, then obviously you'll not succeed, right? It's just like a sports person who takes their sport just as a matter of hobby. Will probably not be as successful as a professional who is very who committed to becoming the world's best, right? Now, I don't think that was the question. The question was somebody who feels they can't be successful in sales because they think they don't have it in them, but then they became great sellers.
Yeah.
So there are lots of such situations. And the reason for that is because, like I said earlier, people don't realize that they're selling all the time. In fact, the IT industry or any industry for the matter, the technical people, the people who know the stuff about the products and services that their organization actually sells, they know the nuts and bolts, they know the specs and features. These people often think they are technical and therefore they are not supposed to be great in sales. All they need to do is think like a doctor. So I'll give an analogy of a doctor. A doctor in India, for example, is somebody who has spent 7 years doing their MBBS. They may have spent another 3-4 years doing their MBA and other subsequent further education and further skilling, specialization. 10 years they have spent. But when a patient goes to meet them, they do not pour out all the knowledge of the 10 years of what they have learned in medicine onto the patient. The knowledge is kept in the back of the mind. They use the knowledge to ask powerful questions. They use the knowledge to find out as the person walks, how are they walking? Do they show any expression of pain? How do they look? Do they look pain? Do they look energetic? Does their eye look yellowish? Are they finding difficulty in breathing? So they are observing a lot of things. Now, what I'm trying to tell you here is that a technical person who has technology and knowledge in their head can very quickly become a very effective seller if they understand the science of selling and pick up some of these aspects. What I have noticed is a lot of people who think they are born sales people who have been in sales because they just got into sales, they struggle because they don't know the more difficult part is the technology.
Correct.
So regular sellers who don't know technology often are pretty pathetic sellers, in my experience, compared to those who are good in technology and can pick up sufficient skills on sales, the science and art of selling, and want the customer to succeed. They become very effective. In fact, some of the rock star technology guys I come across in my life, I won't name them necessarily right now, but they are people who are very good at their field, very good as in their masters, but they also have the ability to understand the customer's situation. So they use the knowledge and the ability to ask questions and to put themselves in the customer's shoes. This makes them, though they never thought of themselves as salespeople, they come across as very persuasive, very convincing salespeople, just because they're able to bring a customer, see the point. And customers love to talk to such people who are technical but have a salesy way of articulating thoughts. Because the sales tag is not there on them.
Correct.
So they don't seem to have a negative perception about the technical person. So technical guys who can grasp a good amount of sales concepts can become more successful in sales, and I've seen that happening, compared to sellers who think they are great in sales but have no clue about technology. So when the client asks them a tough question, they will say, I'll get my subject matter expert.
Exactly.
And there they lose their credibility. The customer thinks, so what are you doing here? You're a postman's job or postwoman's job. You don't have the stuff in you. You're just coming in, sitting and having coffee and wasting my time. So they lose respect and credibility from a customer because they don't have the stuff in their head.
I think closing the deal is the hardest part of sales. Yeah, most challenging. So when do you think that it's the right time to ask to sell to someone? When you are like farming concept you mentioned, but now it's time to close the deal. So what's that right time? What's that right
It's a
decision?
wonderful question you asked me. We just touched upon it a little while ago in terms of cost of inaction.
Correct.
See, closing the deal is so there are two kinds of scenarios that can happen in closing the deals. Uh, if you're talking about closing a deal with a procurement person, somebody who is not emotionally involved with the decision making process, then they need to see the best deal for them falling in place. The best deal in terms of pricing, the best deal in terms of commercial terms, the best deal in terms of people we deployed on the projects. So these are all aspects that a person who's not emotionally involved with the project you can. So with people you are like that if you're dealing with, then you want to make sure that all those pieces are in place when you push for a closure. There are various techniques of pushing for a closure. It is often said that you have to prepare to hear 3 or 4 times a decline or a no before you get a yes.
Okay.
So there is a technique also that is involved there. We hear a no, it is great because it gives you an opportunity to ask the other person, the client, okay, so you're saying right now is not the time to sign on the PO or you're not ready to sign. Help me understand what are 3, 4 things if we can put in place or if we address, we will be ready to sign.
Okay.
And that gives you an opportunity to find out, which are the obstacles that I was talking about. Gives you an opportunity to find out that these are 3 things I need to fix before the client will be ready to sell. Or what are the things that need to happen between now and your signing process, which will, expedite the process. And the person will turn and say, I need to get so-and-so's approval, I need to get the budget approval, I need to get so-and-so signing authority, so-and-so has to validate. See, then know what steps are involved and then you can progress for the sale. So one is closing the deal with people who are just going through a kind of a checklist. With them, you need to push and ask, can we close? Are we ready to close? If not, what are the steps involved and how soon can we get there? These are for non-emotional people from the client side, the procurement, finance, and so on.
Okay.
Because for them, they're looking at, have I got the best deal? In talking about the decision makers, who are typically the people who benefit from that project. So benefit means emotion. So when you talk about the decision makers, you need to ask them, do they feel comfortable in terms of where we have reached with the conversation for them to take a decision?
Okay.
Do they feel that they have now got the maximum value for what they are looking for? Is the solution meeting most of their expected key performance indicators? Are they convinced that a decision now is a better thing than delaying? Because delaying will will incur more cost, the form of risks. So there you have to connect to the heart. In fact, I would like to go ahead and say that most decisions in corporations or corporates, while we think, I have always thought that, it's a very logical decision. It's a very rational decision. Research tells us that most people take a decision emotionally first, then put a rational wrap around it. So when I say take decisions emotionally, they take a decision where they feel that they're comfortable enough to say, yeah, I think I've got what I wanted. This project of this solution will meet most of my personal needs. And when a decision maker is taking the decision, they typically think of three things, three levels of benefits. Personal benefit which will help them look better, get a promotion, get an appreciation in their boss or their peers, or make them look good as somebody who did an important project. So that's personal benefit. Then there's a team benefit. It's if we do this project, our business unit, our team will benefit in this manner. We may have a collective KPI which I'm heading, so I meet the team's KPIs. Right? Just like as a head of family, I'm an individual, I'm also head of a family. So I think with two hacks. I kick as an individual for myself. I also think at times, is this good for my family?
Correct.
Right? So both you have to think. So similarly, a decision maker will think about individual as well as for a unit or business unit that they don't build. The third level they think about is organization. Is this good for my organizations? So when they're at a comfortable place in all these three levels, emotionally, that's when they then take a decision. So decision makers often take decisions from the heart first and then give it a justification to make it acceptable by others. And when you have complex deals, when you have large organizations, often you have multiple decision makers. You don't have one decision maker. So you have to actually get a yes from all those decision makers,
Yes.
so that collectively they are supporting you, and doesn't happen that it should not happen that you get the primary decision maker saying yes, but when that person takes that project to the decision committee, the majority say no, in which case you will lose the deal.
Done.
So it's not enough to get one decision maker to say yes. You have to understand who all will be in the decision committee.
Stakeholders for
Stakeholder, you get their approval. You have to send to them, or you have to align your solution services to their KPIs, what's in it for them, so that all of them see success for themselves, and then you get a yes.
Okay.
So there is that emotional decision leaked by decision committee. There is a rational decision making done by a procurement or finance to the decision makers have said, if you can meet these prices, one of these three companies I'm okay with, go negotiate today. That's when that emotional decision has been taken. Now the rational is coming in, where they start negotiating it.
Okay. Wonderful.
So one needs to understand both aspects.
Interesting.
To part with blind to one and assume your deal is done.
Okay. Got it.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Yes. Interesting. So, like we see that AI is coming into the picture. So, do you see any effects on the salesman job, or what aspects of sales can change because of the AI?
Wonderful question. It's a very pertinent question. The answer is a yes. It's already happening. When you look at many of the chatbots that you engage with, today the chatbot is a digital chatbot for human being there. And when it is a transactional or a commodity, when it's an easy sale, when it's a simple product sale, a chatbot engine or an AI engine can do it very well. In fact, you have natural language processing that is already in place, where you have interactive sales where you can actually be chatting as if you're talking to a human being in a human voice, and you may think that person is a human, but that's actually a digital persona which is talking to you and helping you buy simple products and services.
Correct.
So AI will definitely come into the world of the client engagement person's profession. I may not have read it anywhere till now, but my philosophy, my belief is that very soon, and I'm not even willing to put a number of years to it. It could be a couple of years, it could be 5 years. Very soon, the day and age of the non-challenger seller will end.
Okay.
Meaning,
Typical traditional sellers.
meaning those who are the traditional sellers who believe in going and pitching a product and selling, that can be easily done by AI.
Correct.
A sales process where it's a fulfillment, which is what the core sellers do, which is what the traditional sellers do. You have a need, I fulfill the need. That fulfillment of the need is the traditional way of selling. Right? That an AI engine can easily do. But selling where the client themselves don't know what they need, where you need to bring your experience of having worked with a dozen, 50, 100 clients across the world, seen what their challenges are, and then coming and educating your client what challenges they are going to face if they don't open their eyes and take action now. That an AI may not be able to do in the near future. So there is still some long runway left for the people who can bring that concept of let me teach you, Mr. Customer, how you stand to benefit by engaging in me, which is the entire concept of challenger sale. That salesperson will survive for many more years.
Can I say that the domain people will survive more than the typical domain sellers, like who is having the end-to-end knowledge of that particular domain, so that they can highlight the challenges that customer can face in near future?
So domain is a way of articulating that you understand the industry, the ecosystem in which the client is 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 surviving or is working. Therefore, they can bring that experience to bear. Absolutely. So people who are able to bring that domain knowledge in a manner which benefits a particular client. So it has to be a benefit to that client, the knowledge and the ability and experience you have. And there they see value. Then you are a seller who can stand apart. But traditional sellers who are basically vending products, who are pushing products, their time and window will close after some time. AI starts taping. I think that is much sooner than later.
Okay. Have you seen somewhere like companies are removing the sellers, like firing the sellers people and replacing them with the chatbots?
The answer is yes, but that is happening typically in the outbound call center based sales.
Okay.
So where it is a simple sale process today, where you already have situations like that where people are being not fired, they're being asked to look up to a higher level of value delivery, where they can really be utilized for something better. The basic sale of essential products and services, a chatbot or an AI engine can do. So the realignment in workforce in terms of do I need people to just do basic selling, that is changing and people are being redeployed in better areas. And AI based chat engine or AI based module is already being plugged by many organizations sell basic products or services.
Recently, Misho also announced that they have already started the voice chatbot for customer care, but this also said that they won't be firing anyone who were working. So, as you said,
Yeah, firing is seen often as a uh, organizations do let people go. They may use different cover or bad ways to say people have been fired. They may say voluntary retrenchment or voluntary separation. They may call it performance based separations. Whatever terms they use. Organizations often do not want to let people go if they are going to stand to lose more than stand to gain. Right? If you can redeploy the person in a better role where they can deliver value, why let them go? Because it takes time for people to learn the organization style of working, their business, their industry, their ecosystem. Why lose all that when let people go? But if the advantages are not that obvious, organizations will let them, or they will redeploy them, or they put them on the bench as they call it. How that happens? All that happens depending on what the organization's philosophy is.
so thank you, sir, for such wonderful insights and all the concepts that you have taught us today. I think it will be beneficial to all of us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Last, I want to ask you the fun question: how you would react to that? That if I ask you, like, you are on Arctic and you want to sell an ice, how would you do that?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, these are questions you would ask sellers when they come and talk to us. So, if you're stuck in the Arctic Ocean and you have ice all around, how would you sell ice to an Eskimo? That may be a question that you are going to ask. See, one has to always look at a challenge as one side of the coin, and the other side of the coin is an opportunity. So in sales, every challenge you see actually comes with an opportunity on the backside. It's your ability to spot the opportunity that makes a difference. An Eskimo needs to live somewhere. And for those who have that knowledge, they know that an Eskimo lives in a ice scale. Right?
Correct.
So Eskimos carve out ice blocks from the Arctic Sea, frozen ice,
cut it into slabs, they make an igloo out of it, and they will live comfortably inside. So how do you sell ice to an Eskimo? You tell them that here is an ice, which is something which you can straight away, like a block of concrete used to build an igloo much faster than you going and cutting ice. Because cutting ice and carving out ice is difficult from the frozen bed than to give them blocks of ice and say, here, I'm a salesperson of an ice. You are an Eskimo, build your own igloo. So it's all about, do you see a challenge or do you see an opportunity? It is knowledge based, it is understanding what will be beneficial to the other person and then articulating in the manner which is of value. So whether it's selling the ice to an Eskimo, whether it is selling a comb to a bald man,
Okay.
right? It's all about, do I see a way of delivering value to the persons? So even a bald man occasionally will feel itchy in the head, right? So a comb is not necessarily only to comb hair. We can use a comb to itch your head. Understanding if the person feels the need to itch occasionally, like don't use your nails, use a comb. So it's not a matter of, do you see the challenge or do you see the benefit?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
All about mindset, right? Like how we see
Mindset, its perspectives. It is, are you intent in selling or are you intent in helping other person benefit? If I'm intent in selling, I may not be able to see that person's point of view. If I'm intent on selling, getting the other person to benefit from my discussion, I'll see what, if I present in a manner will benefit them. What are the benefits they are looking for? The product I'm carrying, is it beneficial to them? If I can align that thought process, I'll find a way to help them take advantage of it. So that's how you sell an ice to us.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So this is a rapid fire round and I'll ask you the question and you can say it in short or just one word, whatever I ask. Yeah. So the first is the best sales tip in one word.
Active listening.
Okay. Biggest deal you have ever closed. How long did it take?
I think the biggest deal took me about 9 months, and it was a multi-million dollar deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Sales book everyone must read.
To sell is, Daniel Pink.
Okay.
Pin selling by Neil Rackman.
Okay. The first thing you teach someone new to sales.
It's a science and an art.
Okay.
So understand the science and make it your own with the art.
Okay. One thing salespeople should never say to client.
They should avoid telling the client how much pressure they are in to close the sale. So they should focus on the client's challenges rather than their own.
Okay. Cold calling or face-to-face meetings.
Face to face, absolutely.
Yeah. Your favorite success story in sales.
Getting a customer from a no to a yes.
Okay.
The journey of getting a customer from no to yes.
Okay. What's more important, charm or data?
Actually, both. Since you asked me this or that, I think charm is better because charm is about the entire personality. Data is rather dry. Data has its place, but data gets involved in charm as well, where you can use data as a way of showing, customer how you are aligned with their needs. So charm includes data in my mind, but
Okay.
I'll go with charm.
Okay. The most fun part of being in sales.
The recognition, the joy of winning, the joy of seeing your customer happy when the project is successfully delivered. So the entire experience of the thrill of selling, I would say.
Okay.
So there's a one word that we call the kick of selling or the kick of sales. So it's an adrenaline rush, and people get addicted to that in sales.
Okay. One thing you love about rejection.
It's an opportunity to sell or understand
Okay.
why a customer is saying no. So I always believe that rejection is one side of the coin, opportunity is the other side of the coin.
Okay.
When somebody says no, there is often, as I say, no is the beginning of negotiation. Behind the rejection, there is an opportunity. You have to uncover that.
Okay. Pitch a pen to me in one sentence.
A pen signifies your stature, just like a watch.
Okay.
So pen is as much a writing instrument as it is a status symbol. People who want to project that status symbol often carry some very exclusive pen by Moura and others. And they proudly take it out to use it. Often they would sign only with that pen. I'm a pretty passionate person about pens. I'm a fountain pen lover. And I try and take it a point not to be my fountain pen even to my family vendors.
Okay.
Because for me, that's a very personal thing. It's like a toothbrush. You won't give a toothbrush to people, right?
Correct.
So when I used to travel often, and this is going beyond your one life, said does that.
No,
When I used to travel regularly outside India, or when I used to, find myself in a situation where I would fill a form and people are asking, can I borrow your pen? If I have fountain pen, I always used to carry my fountain pen, favorite pen, and a ball pen.
really?
The last time I leave the ball pen, not the fountain pen. And the simple answer is, well, the way you hold a fountain pen, you can damage the nib if you change the angle. And it takes time to get that nib to write smoothly. Last thing I want to do is give to somebody who puts no pressure and damages it. So, for me, a pen is a great question.
Okay. That I was not aware of till now. The weirdest client request you have ever had?
There are many of them. Clients requesting. So there was this line, I'll give you an analogy. They asked us to build a solution, an application, which analogically, in an analogous manner, was like, build me a two-wheeler to go from point A to point B. Or rather, build me a transport vehicle to go from point A to point E. And we built a bicycle. But by the time they finished the bicycle, they said, no, it has to have 3 wheels so that more than 2 people can sit on it. So it became a 3-wheeler.
Okay.
By the time build the 3-wheeler, they said, what, it has to have a covered body. Okay. And it has to be able to sustain and take care of the weather. So basically, they said, make it a car. By the time we made the car, they said, oh, by the way, it not only needs to go on the road and has to fly.
So, okay.
What began as a transport vehicle, which we thought was a 2-wheeler cycle, became an airplane by then finished. This is the client for whom we actually went and pulled money out of the Hong Kong business. Wow.
Okay.
They said something and then they manipulated us to deliver something. Then we said, this is not fair. You have to respect the fact that we are in partnership here, and that's to be win-win for both. So this is a bizarre incident where sometimes customers take it for right.
Your go-to line when a pitch isn't going well.
How can I help you?
Okay. If you weren't in sales, what career you would have chosen?
Training, facilitation. You can do it now.
Okay. The most overrated sales strategy.
Talking.
Okay. One skill every salesperson should master.
You have 2 years, listen twice as much as you speak.
Describe your sales philosophy in 3 words.
Influence, impact, inspire.
Oh, nice. One word that defines a great salesperson.
Intent.
Intent. Your favorite motivational quote.
Failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Okay.
So, if you want to succeed, you must prepare hard enough so that you won't fail.
Okay, great. What's more important in sales, timing or persistence?
Persistence.
One tool or software you can't live without in sales.
In today's age, I would say chatbot.
Okay, true. If you could have a sales meeting with anyone in history, who would it be?
Elon Musk.
Okay. If you had to sell something you don't believe in, what would you do?
I would fake it till I make it.
Okay. What's the first thing you would do if you had to start a new sales team from scratch?
I would hire people for attitude and train them on skills.
Okay. One word to describe your sales style.
Passionate.
Passionate. Okay. If you could sell any product in the world, what would it be?
The power of knowledge.
Okay. The funniest excuse you have heard from client.
No budget.
What's your favorite follow-up line?
Price is a concept.
Okay. What's the biggest mistake often a salesperson make?
They take the customer's apparent yes as a closure of deal,
Okay.
although that yes may just be an answer to get the seller off their back.
Okay. What's harder to sell, an idea or a product?
Idea.
Okay. Is closing the deal harder than finding leads?
On the contrary, finding leads is more difficult.
Okay. What's the most creative way you have gotten someone's attention?
Dramatizing the impact that they don't listen to,
Okay.
which is essentially telling them what they stand to lose if they don't listen to me.
Okay. So you what quick choices? Email or phone call?
Phone,
Data driven or instinct driven sales?
instinct,
Large accounts or small recurring? Okay. Negotiation or storytelling?
negotiation,
Speed or precision in sales?
precision.
Okay. That's it for the day. Thank you so much.
Pleasure of the night. Thank you for having me on your podcast, Rakhi. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking this time for this show.
I hope you succeed and you do a lot more podcasts and educate and share valuable information with people out there.
So, thank
You're
you.
the very best.
Thank you so much.